Hello, this is McD the Beast, and this is McD Sports 4 coming to you today with my Week 4 college football top 25. Before I continue, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. Very appreciate if you do that. We're really trying to grow the channel. We do have a subscribe goal of 500 by the end of the year, so go ahead hit that subscribe button. If you're new, you will not regret it. Let me just say this past week for college football, because I'm filming this probably about 45 minutes before the NFL games kick off here this Sunday. A lot of great games from start to finish. From I would say from Friday with the two Friday night games through the 12:30 a.m. game technically that was played on Sunday between San Jose State and Hawaii. Just a bunch of really good games. I think we had some surprising performances. Don't get me wrong, there was some normal performances, but I created this top 25. This is the best top 25 I could think of for week 4. So let's get into it. We'll go 25 through 1. And up to 25, I have BYU. Okay, I'll buy into the fact that they're a top 25 team. I'm not very sold that they are, but I'll buy into it. BYU, they went ahead and beat Arizona State, who was in this poll this past week. I'll talk about them later because I did kick them out. But BYU wins over Utah, which it doesn't look that impressive now because they lost to San Diego State, and wins against Arizona State, and they beat Arizona. So they have technically they have 3 Power 5 wins, BYU. So I have him in the top 25 for that. That's pretty impressive early in the season. Say what you want about those three programs. I still think Arizona State and Utah are at least going to be at the worst competitive in the Pac-12. I actually would not be surprised if either one of those teams end up back in this top 25. Arizona is probably going to be slated to go 0-12. They lost Northern Arizona yesterday. So overall, I do think that BYU, the resume isn't as strong as some people want to make it out to be, but I put them at number 25. I do think the 25th best team in the country. I couldn't put any team that I left out of this pool ahead of them. And up to 24, Fresno State, they beat UCLA. Their only loss is to Oregon 31-24. Fresno State, technically, they play two teams in the Pac-12 that are considered top 25 schools. I still think UCLA is going to be in this pool at some point. They beat them. I mean, they beat them. 40-37 was the final late last night. I didn't watch any of the game because I don't get the Pac-12 network, which I think is going to change in the near future. Um, but you got Fresno State. Um, I mean, out of maybe all the Mountain West teams, with the exception of maybe one that I'm going to talk about here in a second, maybe the most impressive resume. I know they have a loss on the schedule, but that loss was to a team, in my opinion, that is probably a top 5 team. So 31-24 on the road. So I mean they beat UConn. I believe they beat a nobody, and then they beat UCLA. So say what you want about Fresno State. I think they're a top 25 team from everything I've seen so far from them this year. I put them in number 24. Number 23, San Diego State. San Diego State, they beat Arizona. Convincingly, unlike BYU. BYU didn't beat Arizona that convincingly, but San Diego State did, and they beat Utah 33-31 last night. I put them as a top 25 team. In my opinion, I think they are a top 25 team. Now, Grant, I don't know how Mount West plays going to play out. Boise State, they lost a tight one to Oklahoma State. I did consider playing Oklahoma State in here, but I didn't. But I think San Diego State, I think they're a top 25 team as well. I think San Diego State, Fresno State are going to be battling it out. They're in the Mountain West in the West Division. Number 22 is Kansas State. Kansas State's 3-0. Yeah, the FCS win wasn't that good, but they pulled away against the Nevada team 38-17 yesterday that beat Cal. I know Cal's not that good either, but they beat a team that had already beat a team with a Power 5 win in the Group of 5, and they were actually underdogs in that game as well, and still winning by 3 touchdowns. Then you have them being Stanford's. A Stanford team looked pretty good against Vanderbilt. I know it was Vanderbilt, but I think the score was 41-23 in that one. And then you had them go into Southern Cal and have 4 touchdowns. So I think Kansas State's resume is top 25. So I put them up to 22. Now, before you get mad at me at number 21, you can call me a homer all you want. I put Maryland up at 21, and here's why. I look at Maryland's resume; they're 3-0. Exclude the Howard win. That's nice, 62-0 win there. The West Virginia win. West Virginia beat the number 20 team in this poll. They beat the number 15 team in this country, technically. But the Virginia Tech was number 20 in this poll. And by the way, Virginia Tech is also out of the poll. A lot of teams were kicked out of the poll this week. Maryland, in my opinion, beat them. They beat them. They went ahead and beat Illinois. Yeah, it was a last-second field goal. Illinois' lone wins against Nebraska. Nebraska looked pretty good against Oklahoma. That's definitely I hate the word respectable loss, but that was probably the definition of like a respectable good loss there, for Nebraska. They were in that was a 4-quarter game, and basically Illinois beat them. So I think resume rise, Maryland's top 25. I don't know team rise if they are or not. They play Kent State this week. I think they will beat Kent State, and then they play Iowa, and we'll see what Maryland really is when they play Iowa. Okay, number 20 is Michigan State. I couldn't keep them out of the top 25 anymore. Matter of fact, I think personally, I still think I still think Big Ten play. I still don't think they're going to do as well as some Michigan State fans want to think. But in my opinion, I do think that they are a top 25 team. I don't think you could keep them out of the top 25 pool. I put them at 20. That win against Miami was impressive, 38-17. And say what you want about Miami. I personally think the Miami-Florida State matchup is going to be between whoever loses that is probably going to be the worst team in the ACC. Because my honest opinion about Miami is I don't even know if they're making a bowl game. So you look at Michigan State. They were 6.5-point dogs on the road. They went out there and won by 3 touchdowns. I can't keep them out of the top 25 anymore. They're beating up everybody that they play. So, number 20, Michigan State. Number 19, Arkansas. You look at Arkansas, 45-10 over Georgia Southern. Good win. They have a big game against A&M next week. Um, we'll see what happens in that game. I haven't made my mind up on that one. That is the CBS 3:30 game. So I do think that Arkansas. I think they are a top 25 team. There was no letdown against Georgia Southern after a big win at home against Texas. So I'm pretty. If you're an Arkansas fan, I think you're a top 25 team. I don't know going through the SEC because I think the SEC looks like a bloodbath this year. I think Ole Miss is good this year. More on them in a second. I still believe LSU's good. I think Auburn's good. I think Auburn's good. I think Mississippi State has a pulse. I think everybody in the SEC West is still really good. I wonder what team's going to be left out of a bowl game in that division. So I don't know who's going to be. I tell you, it's not going to be Alabama, or Ole Miss, or Texas A&M. I can tell you, it's not going to be one of those three. But I think Arkansas is good. I really do. I think they have a shot to maybe get 8-9 wins this year. Number 18, Coastal Carolina. Listen, I'll be honest with you. During the preseason, when we were doing our predictions, I did have Coastal Carolina going up there and losing to Buffalo. Give them credit. They did win. They didn't cover, and I didn't think they were going to cover that spread either. 14 points. I thought that was a pretty big spread for them to cover. But they won the game 28-25. I mean, Coastal Carolina, they're getting ready to go into Sunbelt play. They don't play Louisiana. Appalachian State is in their division. They'll play them. So we'll see what they get out of them. But in my opinion, I don't think Coastal Carolina. I think it's gonna be tough for them to break past number 15 unless they're undefeated. Even with a loss, I think it's gonna be kind of tough with that resume because Kansas got blown out by Baylor 45-7, and some people were taking Kansas plus 18, plus 19, whatever the spread was that game. Buffalo, I think they're gonna lose a game or two in the MAC. So, and they already lost to a Nebraska team 28-3. And I know I just say great things about Nebraska, but I think Nebraska's still going to struggle to go ahead and get to a bowl game. So I think resume rise. I think Coastal Carolina's resume is weak, but I do think they're a top 25 team, and I put them at number 18. I moved them up, I think, one spot. Number 17, North Carolina. Yeah, I moved down North Carolina spot despite them going ahead and winning. Their game by 20 this past weekend against Virginia. Pretty good win. I was a little bit surprised with the score. I didn't think it was going to be a shootout like that, but the reason why North Carolina's getting moved down is because of that Virginia Tech loss more than anything. And here's the good news: if you're, I'm going to say my comments on Virginia Tech when we get to them, and the teams I left out. But if you look at North Carolina, um, I do think that they still have a really good shot to face Clemson in the ACC championship game. I actually think they have a good shot to beat Clemson in the ACC championship game. More on that in a second. But I do think that North Carolina, the only reason they're getting moved down a little bit is because of that loss to Virginia Tech. But by like week 6, it's not going. If they only have one loss, it's not going to matter as much. And number 16, Michigan, 63-10 over Northern Illinois. Very good win for Michigan there. I believe they have I don't know who they play next week, but I know they get Wisconsin in 2 weeks. You look at the Big Ten East. I mean, people are saying it's wide open. I think it's definitely closer than where it was in previous years. Between Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and all of them. So maybe a few things bounce right. Maybe Michigan represents the Big Ten East in the Big Ten championship game and win the Big Ten East. But I do think Michigan overall is a really good team. I told people in the preseason I ranked this team 25 preseason. I said that the talent's there for them to have a really good year, and so far it's working out. I don't know necessarily how they're going to do in Big Ten play. I still think they're probably going to have at least 2 losses in Big Ten play, most likely, at minimum. But I do. I said I do think this Michigan team's gonna win 8-9. I think I actually no. I think I have them at 7-5, but I said it would not surprise me to go 9-3. So Michigan number 16. Number 15 is Iowa State, and I've got to do the animations here for this one, so I apologize for that. Um, Number 15 is Iowa State. I moved them down a spot despite blowing out UNLV 48-3. I mean, it's UNLV. They're the worst team in the Mountain West. And the only reason they're getting moved down is because they have a loss on their schedule. Not because of who they lost to, because they have a loss on their schedule. Um, I mean, the team ahead of them, Ole Miss, is undefeated. I had moved them up after that performance against Tulane. So that's the only reason why Iowa State's moved down. I still think Iowa State is going to be in the Big 12 championship game. In my opinion, what happened in the Iowa game is that Matt Campbell just can't beat Iowa for some reason. Like it's just one of those things. Like Jim Harbaugh can't beat Ohio State. Gundy has so much trouble against Oklahoma. Uh, Kentucky can't beat Florida to save their lives. So it's just one of those things. 14 Ole Miss. Ole Miss beat Tulane 61-21. That was really impressive in my opinion. A Tulane team that some people were saying good things about, and Ole Miss hung 61 on them, only gave up 21. They get Alabama on week 5. That's gonna be a hell of a game. There, it is in Tuscaloosa, but it is gonna be a hell of a game against Alabama there in week 5. I definitely give Ole Miss the way they play offensively. I definitely give Ole Miss a real shot in that one. But that's 2 weeks out. Number 13, Wisconsin. They had a bye week. I didn't move them up or down. I think Wisconsin is a top 15 team. They get Michigan in week 5. That's gonna be a huge game for them. And they actually get the number 12 team next week. Number 12 Notre Dame. The winner of that game. And I am leaning Wisconsin in this one. I do think that it's gonna be a great game there in Chicago, but it's a big noon kickoff game. But Wisconsin, I think, is the top 15 team. Notre Dame finally got a convincing win, 27-13 over a Purdue team. That actually played pretty well. I give Purdue a lot of credit. I thought they played well. Notre Dame just pulled away late there. You look at Notre Dame though. I mean, you look at Purdue. I think Purdue. In my opinion, I think Purdue's probably going 6-6. If you want my honest opinion, I think they get into a bowl game. You look at Florida State; they're the worst team in the ACC. You look at Toledo. Toledo lost to Colorado State, so I don't think Notre Dame's resume is that good. I just don't. But I do think that I do think they're a top 25 team. I actually think they're really a top 20 team. But that game against Wisconsin is going to tell you all you need to know. I think that overall I think overall that Notre Dame is gonna I think they're gonna play a really good game against Wisconsin. And then number 11, Florida. I moved them down one spot. Florida, I thought gave Alabama their best shot. If they didn't get down 21-3 early, they would have won that game against Alabama. That game was 21-3. Um, and then Florida, they outscored them 26-10 for the rest of the way. You look at Florida, it looks like Emory Jones is going to be the number one quarterback. Though I'm not buying the fact that Anthony Richardson was injured. I mean, that guy was basically paying on a gymnastics show there during the pregame. But I do think that Florida is. I think they're going to compete for the SEC East. I think that game against Georgia is going to be huge. I think that's going to be a tight game either way. So I moved them down one spot because they lost. I'm not going to leave the team at the same spot. Or some people are saying they're moving Florida up in their poll, which I don't get at all. To me, if you lose, you should automatically get moved down one spot. So that's what I did with Florida. Okay, number 10 is Penn State. Very impressive win at home against the Auburn team that I think a lot of people think that are a lot better than what they thought. A lot of people are still saying, oh, Auburn's the seventh best team in the SEC. Are we sure about that? Penn State, in my opinion, they have a legit shot to win the Big Ten East, in my opinion. That game against Ohio State later on in the season is going to be huge. But overall, 28-20 was your final back and forth game. I think Penn State overall is a top 10 team. I put them in number 10. Number 9 is Clemson. I moved them down 6 spots. I did. They were number 3 last week. I moved them down to 9. 14-8 over Georgia Tech. A Georgia Tech team that lost to Northern Illinois, and Northern Illinois lost to Michigan 63-10 this past weekend. Listen, you look at Clemson. I do think Clemson's losing another game elsewhere. Could be the ACC championship game against North Carolina, most likely. I think Boston College has a shot against them. That game is in I think it is up there in Boston College. I think they do have a shot against them, Boston College. I mean, I think it's 70-30, but Clemson has a lot of offensive issues. They have a lot of offensive issues. I mean, it's either a work. The best case scenario for Clemson is that it's just a work in progress. I think Clemson. I mean, defensively, I think they're really good. I mean, I think that's the good news. Bad news is that offensively, it's going to be a bit of a struggle bus. It really is. You look at who they play in the ACC. Don't give me NC State. Whenever people think Dave Doran's going to do something there at NC State, he miserably fails. So I'm not buying into that for 1 second. And then you look at Boston College. I think Boston College might beat them. I really do. I don't know when they play them necessarily, but I do think Clemson is going to. I don't think they're just going to cruise to the ACC championship game from here on out. I think they're going to have a few tight games like this at minimum. Number 8, Texas A&M. I moved them up one spot. 34-0 over New Mexico. That Colorado win 10-7. Yeah, it was ugly. I mean, at the end of the season, it's going to be people just going to be like, yeah, you beat Colorado. But Minnesota went in there and 30-0 them. So I don't know necessarily what's going on with A&M. They have a big game obviously against Alabama in a few weeks. I think that I definitely still think they have a shot in that. I know the quarterback's injured, Haynes, and they're paying in Zaza Kaleda, I believe is how you pronounce it. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, but I think A&M will be fine. I think they're a top 10 team. I put them number 8. Number 7, Oklahoma. Yeah, I moved Oklahoma down some. I'm very concerned about this team offensively. Defensively, I actually think their defense is fine. I actually do. I know they gave up 35 to Tulane in week 1, but I think when the time counted in that game, the defense stepped up. I thought the defense played well against Nebraska. But offensively, Spencer Rattler is not as good as Baker Mayfield. He's not as good as Jalen Hurts. He's not as good as Kyler Murray. He's just not, in my opinion. You go ahead, you look at Oklahoma. I still think, I mean, they might lose a game somewhere in the Big 12, maybe to Iowa State. in the regular season. I was still favoring them to win the Big 12, but I definitely think they gotta work out some things offensively. It's not as bad as Clemson because I still think Oklahoma's offense with Lincoln Riley's play calling can at least get to 30 on most teams. But Oklahoma had moved down a few spots. That was not a good performance against Nebraska. Number 6, Ohio State. I moved them up one spot, and a lot of these teams like I'll say 4 through 10. It's kind of tough to figure them out. I do think the third and fourth seeds wide open in the college football playoffs. A lot of Ohio State fans are livid after this game. I mean, good lord. I mean, people are like, oh, people are saying basically the defense sucks. CJ Stroud's terrible. Tulsa, yeah, the 0-3. Tulsa has played every team very, very, very close. Oklahoma State had earned that victory against them. Ohio State kind of had earned that victory against them. Final score was 41-20, but trust me, that game was a lot closer than 41-20. But overall, I'm not that concerned about Ohio State. I mean, I am a little bit concerned about their defense. I do think that is valid concerns there, or some valid concerns there. But you look at, I think to get Akron this week, they should blow out Akron without problem. And I'm sure after that the talks will calm down. But people are panicking like Ryan Day is a step back from Urban Meyer. He's lost one regular season game, guys. He lost one regular season game, and this is year 3 of Ryan Day. He's lost one regular season game. So I'm not concerned about Ohio State really. I mean, I do think there's some valid concerns on the defensive end of the ball, but I'm not that concerned. Number 5. Now here's the top 5. Number 5, Cincinnati. Yeah, I moved them back up to 5. I had them at number 5 in week 2 because I was like, I can't think of a team that can beat Cincinnati that's behind them. And I moved them back to 8 because they were disappointing against Murray State. But I moved them back up to 5. 38-24 against Indiana. Indiana gave them the best shot. And this was actually a top 25 game in my poll, 8 versus 18. Indiana did drop out of the poll after this week, but you look at Cincinnati. I mean, what can I say about them? I mean, they are a pretty damn good team. I think that they're probably, to me, the best Group of 5 team. But was outside of maybe Cincinnati, was maybe one of the Boise State teams. But you look at Cincinnati, they are pound to pound. I think outside maybe Alabama and Georgia could beat anybody. So I picked them at number 5. I'm not. I mean, they get Notre Dame in 2 weeks. We'll see what happens there. I think Cincinnati will beat Notre Dame. Go in there and beat Notre Dame. From everything I'm seeing, but they beat the first test, Indiana. Here's the unfortunate news for Cincinnati, though. I think Indiana's a 6-7 win team at best, honestly, especially the way the Big Ten East is looking. And I do think that Notre Dame, they're going to lose a few games down the road. So, including to you guys. So I don't know necessarily how good that resume is going to be, especially with UCF's quarterback being out. Um, so overall, I do think that I don't know if that resume is going to be there for Cincinnati to make the playoffs at the end, but we'll see. We'll see. If they're 12-0 and there's a bunch of one-loss teams, I think it might be kind of tough too. Number 4, Iowa. Uh, Iowa beat Kent State 30-7. In my opinion, Iowa's resume is still really good. They have a win over the number 15 team in this poll, and they beat Indiana. I know they're unranked, but they 34-6 them. Um, I think I mean their next big game, I believe. I don't know who they play this upcoming week, but I want to say they. But I know in next week that Friday night game they're on the road against Maryland, who's number 21 in this poll. So I mean, we'll see what Iowa is against Maryland. I do think Maryland's the best offense Iowa will play yet. But overall, you look at Iowa, how can you not keep them out of the top 5 at this point? Now granted, I do think offensively they got to be better because I do think that because a lot of the scoring has actually been on the defensive end, on the defensive side of the ball. But I put Iowa number 4. Number 3, Oregon. Listen, Oregon, in my opinion, they beat Stony Brook 48-7. Okay, they beat FCS good. Out of all the teams, not named Alabama and Georgia, I think Oregon's the third best team. I really do. I mean, I would pick them to beat Iowa and Cincinnati, even though I think both of those teams have good shots against Oregon. But I will pick Oregon on neutral field. So I pick Oregon number 3. It's gonna be interesting to see the whole how the Pac-12 stacks up because UCLA lost. Southern Cal, they're playing on their interim coach. Arizona State lost. Utah doesn't look as good as they did. Washington finally got a win. It looks like maybe Stanford might be that team, but we'll see. Overall, I think Oregon is number 3. Number 2, Georgia. Georgia, and they beat South Carolina 40-13. I do think that, in my opinion, I do think that they are the second best team in the country. I couldn't put them above Alabama. I'll show you right now. I have Alabama number 1, and I do think that Georgia, in my opinion, I mean, what can I say about Georgia? I mean, they have Auburn in a few weeks. I know that. Um, but in my opinion, I do think that Georgia number 2, Alabama number 1. Yeah, people do think Georgia should be put number 1 after Alabama's performance. They went into a hostile environment and got a win against, in my opinion, a top 10 team. I do think Florida's a top 10 team. I just think that I can't rank them in the top 10 based off of everything I'm seeing. But I mean, they got Florida's best shot. And they still won 31-29. Alabama did. So I picked them at number 1. All right, teams I left out. 18 Indiana. They're 1-2 at this point. I had to kick them out. Number 20 Virginia Tech. Yeah, I wasn't really buying into Virginia Tech. I thought that was a nice victory they had there, but I wasn't really put them like any higher than like 18. So I kicked them out after I lost to a West Virginia team. Give West Virginia credit at home. Get the victory. Um, Yeah, I don't. I'm not that sold on Virginia Tech. Number 21 UCF. They lost a quarterback, Gabriel. Now, granted, it was on the last play of the game. What a wild game that was, UCF Louisville. But to me, Louisville is still going to struggle to get to a bowl game despite winning this one. So I kicked UCF out. Number 22 UCLA. I do think that UCLA, I wasn't very sold on them. I know they had that nice win against LSU. They lost to Fresno State. I kicked them out. Number 23, Arizona State. They lost to BYU. I kicked them out. And then number 25, Auburn. I'm still high on Auburn. I mean, if this was like a top 30 pool, Auburn would be in it. So would probably Arizona State to a lesser degree, maybe a UCLA. But I do think that Auburn, at 25, they lost. I had to kick them out. So that's the teams I kicked out. That's basically my top 25. Thanks for watching the video. Hit the thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate you do that. I'm really trying to go to the channel. So go ahead and do that. Thanks for watching. McD the Beast signing off.